This week's Torah portion is called Parashat Lecha, and we read in it about Abraham, who hears a call from God to leave his birthland, his father's house, and to go to a land that God will show him. But we don't really, in this text, get much of an understanding about who Abraham is that God is calling to. And for that information, we have to go to the oral tradition. So there's a few stories there that I'd like to share. Terach, Abraham's father, owns a store where he sells idols. And one day, Abraham is in charge of the store. His father goes off and leaves him in charge. In comes a man, and the man says, I want to buy an idol. And Abraham says to the man, how old are you? He says, I'm 60 years old. He says, you, a 60-year-old man, are going to worship a one-day-old idol? The man's embarrassed, and he leaves. In comes a woman with a pan filled with flour. And she says to Abraham, I would like to offer this to one of the idols. So Abraham takes the flour, and he takes a stick, and he proceeds to smash all the idols in the store except for the biggest idol. He leaves it intact, and he puts the stick into the hand of that idol. His father comes home, sees the wreckage. He says, what happened here? He said, well, a lady came in with a flower offering, and all the idols were arguing with each other about who would get the offering. So the biggest one has this stick, and the biggest one smashed all the smaller idols and was able to get the offering. Terach says to his son, that's ridiculous. These idols can't do that. These idols have no cognition. Abraham says to his father, did you hear what you just said? These idols are nothing. They don't matter. A little bit later, Abraham now is presented to Nimrod. Nimrod is the king of the land. And Nimrod tells Abraham, I worship the fire. So Abraham says to him, if you worship the fire, then you should worship water, because water puts out fire. Okay, I'll worship the water. Well, if you worship the water, you should worship the clouds, because the clouds are the source of water. And if you worship the clouds, you should worship the wind, because the wind scatters the clouds. And if you worship the clouds, then you should worship people, because people are filled with air. Nimrod gets angry, and he takes Abraham and he throws him into a furnace, into a fiery furnace. God protects Abraham, and he comes out of the fiery furnace unscathed. Abraham is willing to live for what he's willing to die for. He was willing to get thrown into that fiery furnace to proclaim the oneness of God. And we're in a time now, I believe, where we're also fighting for the things that we believe in, the things that we're willing to die for. We're willing to die for our land. We're willing to die for our people. We're willing to die for the goodness, and we're willing to die for our belief and our faith in God, that God gave us this land, that we are a holy people, that we are partnering with God to bring goodness into the world. And together, as a unified people, with God protecting us, we will prevail, and please God, it should happen soon.